Yo guys, real quick, DK from the future here. So the list you guys are about to get into is going to be very similar to the Armor Rush deck list that I actually top 32'd with in the recent DC-1 Grand Prix. But I didn't want to just re-upload the virtually the same deck profile giving the exact same explanations. So I already have like a list that I'm going to get into, but I just do want to point out a couple things. The list you're about to see versus the list that I topped with, there's really only a 3-card difference that I just wanted to point out in case anyone was interested. So the list that I'm going to talk about is going to have these 3 cards: Double Hammer, Spark, Plasma Shot, but I actually ended up cutting these for a 3rd copy of Blue Memory Boost, 1 copy of Armor Texture, as well as a Shakuamon. So just in case you were interested in like differences, so basically, like, the list you're going to see is essentially the one I top 32'd with, but just as these cards as a difference. And then I also wanted to take the chance to just talk about my matchups real quick. So it was a 8-round tournament. I actually only played 7 of those rounds. One of those rounds was a bye. But in those 8 or 7 rounds, rather, I played against 1 Dark Knightmon, 1 Jesmon GX, both of which those decks are very difficult for this deck, especially Dark Knightmon, because of all the Digivolving that they have access to. Jesmon's really difficult because they spam the board very quickly, and they're able to get over Magnamon X relatively easily. But I actually did play against 5 Cross Hearts in a row and managed to beat every single one of them. So I definitely think that this deck has its place in the meta. And keep in mind, this is full power Cross Heart with still 4 Sunrise Buster as well as 4 copies of Cross 4. This deck absolutely did better than I ever expected it to, and I actually do believe the first place, the winner of the event, was also playing an Armor Rush deck, although his list, of course, was probably better than mine, and he was also playing Jesmon GX, which is a really cool deck, so shout out to the champion. But anyways, that's all I wanted to say, so let's go ahead and get into the deck profile. Yo, what is going on, people? It is your boy back with another deck profile, and I have to say, this deck has absolutely been outperforming, I think, for me for the BT10 format. Of course, I'm talking about everyone's favorite blue dinosaur big-headed thing. This is V-mon Armor Rush, guys, and if you haven't tested it out over the BT10 format, or maybe you aren't as familiar with this deck, I would like to say that it is a really strong list, this format. It saw success in the BT9 format because of your boss monster Magnamon X, the ability to constantly redirect attacks, as well as the effective armor purge ability of him, as well as the armor purge of all your other armors, being able to span the board. Lots of powerful option cards as well, so this is a really fun deck. I think has a pretty solid cross-heart matchup, so let's go ahead and talk about it. Of course, the eggs are going to be standard, just your 4 copies of Upamon. 4 eggs is all you need, I think, even against some of the slower matchups. If I was going to play 5th, I'd maybe play like the Jamming Demi V-mon or something. I'm not really sure. Maybe if your locals has a lot of set control, that'd be worth it, but Upamon, I think, is totally fine. Now for the V-mons, of course, that is going to comprise all of the level 3s, is going to be 3 copies of the Jamming V-mon. I think 3 is enough. You could try to play 4, but I think I value the searches a little bit more because of the consistency. Past seeing multiples of these in your hand is not very good as well. Similar to that, we have the All-4 starter deck V-mon. This guy, again, not too great in multiples, but he is really important early game. Not warping into All-4s, of course, but the inherited effect of if you've got 7 or fewer cards in your hand, you get to trigger draw 1. Of course, not being a once per turn effect, so in the off chance maybe you swing with an armor, it purges, and then you go into a Magnamon, maybe attack again. That can net you multiple draws is really nice, especially with Upamon being able to choose those triggers as well. Like, let's say if you've got 7 cards in hand, you can trigger this one first and then the Upamon afterwards to still get the draw 2. But again, not really great late game, and you don't really want to see multiples of. And then for the Searcher V-mons, I am playing 4 of the starter deck V-mon here. This is the reveal top 3 and add 1 card with free in its traits amongst those in bottom deck. The rest, of course, this V-mon has a really strong on-play effect. He searches effectively every Digimon in your deck. All of the armors, including all the V-mons as well, including himself. So really strong stuff there. And then going to play 3 copies of the BT8 V-mon. More searchers are always good. This one is great because he reveals the top 4, and you add a 2-color blue card amongst those, so it does not restricted to just Digimon. You can add stuff like your Dual Tamer, stuff like your dual colored option cards, Megadeth, etc. But I find the fact that most of the games I lose, I'm lacking like the armor Digimon, so that's why I'm playing 4 of the free searcher. But anyways, guys, that is going to do it for the V-mons. And now for the armors, pretty standard ratios, I would think. The only thing that might be a little bit odd is going to be the 4 copies of Magnamon. I've seen a lot of lists play 3, some even play 2. I think Magnamon is just way too crazy. It's a win condition against a lot of decks, and I really think you need the defensive capability. This card is both defensive and offensive, being able to potentially get 2 swings in or set up a really big blocker. I kind of talked about this in a previous video, but one strategy that is really solid against Crossheart is the ability to be able to block multiple attacks and putting a weak blocker on field that can stop their cross 4 and cross 5 plays. So Magnamon definitely fulfills those roles. You can always recycle it with your golden armor if they hit that, and security as well. And just being an overall powerhouse is really strong. And then the others, of course, are standard as well. Going to be playing 4 copies of Flame Dramon, as well as your 4 copies of the Lydramon here. So 12 armors in total. Flame Dramon's really good for the aggro plays in tandem with something like Fire Rocket, being able to go 2+ 3,000. And then, of course, like I said, if you've got a way to unsuspend him, maybe you are playing something like Armor Texture, rather, as well as the Dual Tamer. You can potentially get it that plus 3,000 multiple times per turn. Lydramon's just good for the board control and just having another armor name. He's probably the weakest of the 3, I think, in this format, because especially with all the save Digimon running around. But I definitely think you still include him. So that's going to do it for the regular armors. And then for, of course, your big boss monster, we are going to be playing 3 copies of Magnamon X. I think 3 is enough, probably the bare minimum. You could definitely play 4, but I found myself running into too many copies. There's plenty of ways to access it. I'm playing lots of consistency cards, Davis, Blue Memory Boost, your V-mon searchers as well as the fact you can recycle this. So if you've used one already, it's in the trash, you can grab this back off of your Golden Knight. So I think 3 is definitely fine. This guy has a couple of really crazy effects. First of all, you can bypass your evolution requirements just by paying 4 for Magnamon, but if you don't have access to Magnamon, you can just use the Golden Knight option card to basically evolve on top of any of your armors. And then this card has the insane effect of when your opponent's Digimon attacks, if a card with armor form in its traits or X antibody is in the Digimon's Digivolution cards, you may switch that target of the attack to this Digimon. Note a couple of things here. Well, first of all, you're not really playing X antibody in this list, you don't need it, but any of your armor forms will suffice. Any of the 3 we talked about earlier. Underneath him, you can use that redirect effect. That is not a once per turn redirect, so if your opponent is playing something like Crossheart and they don't have an out for this guy, you basically shut off their entire turn from being able to attack your security whatsoever. And then pair that with something like Golden Knight that prevents the reduction of DP. I've talked about this card a lot, so let me just show it on screen before I talk any further. But this card lets you digivolve any of your armor forms into a Magnamon, a Digimon card with Magnamon in its name, so you can also digivolve into the regular Magnamon if you'd like. Usually use it with this. And then that Digimon that digivolve with this effect cannot have its DP reduced by your opponent's effects until the end of your opponent's turn. So that gets around the fact that pretty much every Crossheart list, as well as Yellow Hybrid Security Control, is playing something like a Sunrise Buster. So this card is just really good. Crossheart effectively has no outs aside from something like Death X, and if you're playing it smart, you probably won't put more than 1 to 2 armors on a field at any given time anyways. And then last thing I do want to mention is I've seen some interactions with the Magnamon. So I talked about Magnamon a little bit. He has the effect where He gains 2000 DP until the end of your opponent's next turn for each card with armor form in its traits in your trash. So its form has to specifically be armor. Just keep in mind, guys, that Magnamon X is actually not in armor form. He is a mega form. He does not count towards this total. I've actually seen a couple of scenarios, a couple of misplays where someone evolved a Magnamon and they counted this towards the total. So just keep in mind that doesn't actually count. So just want to point that out real quick. And then for our last couple of Digimon here, just toolboxy Digimon here. So we've got the Kumamon to go for game, of course, just the one copy of a hybrid, and then just one copy of Chimeramon. This guy's really good for kind of hard evolving Magnamon if you've got like 2 armors and one of them's blue. I guess they're all blue. So if you just got 2 armors, you can just stack this on top of them, super glue them together, maybe get another swing there, minus 2 to 4,000 on your guys, because you can usually get them to multiple colors. Like if you've got something like Lydramon, Flamedramon, that's 1, 2, 3, 4 colors right there, so you can already put him to minus 4,000 on all of your opponent's Digimon, or 4 of their opponent's Digimon, and then he gains plus 4,000 DP during your turn, so that's pretty cool. And then you can also just go straight into Magnamon X, like hard evolve it for 3, because this is a blue Digimon for your turn, so that's another cool interaction that I'd like to point out. But that's going to do it for the Digimon. For the Tamers and option cards, of course, playing the 3 copies of Davis. This is standard. Just having a memory setter that also searches you 1 to 2 Digimon is really, really broken. So definitely want to play 3 of those. I think 4 is a little bit too much. And then I'm just playing 2 copies of Davis Ken. I like this ratio. I've seen 3-3. I typically don't really ever want to see more than 1 Davis Ken on the field at a time. I don't think you really ever need more than 1. But then the effect of to gain the memory is really good, but the best effect I think is to be able to unsuspend one of your Digimon if it evolves into something with 2 or more colors. So like I said, if you maybe like one of the coolest plays you can do is like evolve, like you got a V-mon and then you go like Flamedramon on top of a V-mon, and then you swing, and then maybe you fire rocketed this, so it's 8,000 checking 2, you armor purge, you evolve into like another Flamedramon or another armor, you suspend this, unsuspend this, you swing, it still checks 2, still has plus 3k, so that's something really cool you can do. This card's really crazy. That's going to do for the Tamers, and then lots and lots of option cards. So a couple of really good removal option cards is going to be, of course, 3 copies of Megadeth. This is really, really broken, this format. It's kind of just been broken since it came out. This card's really crazy. A very efficient removal. Blue-green requirement, not very difficult to meet in this deck. Just being able to bounce anything to hand, especially cross 4s and 5s and Minerva Mons and stuff like that. Just stuff you don't really want hitting the trash is really nice. And then I'm also just playing 1 tech copy of Plasma Shot. A lot of people have cut this card, but I still definitely think it has its values. It's, again, one of those cards that you don't really want to see early game. If you're not familiar with this card, it gives one of your opponent's Digimon minus 4k, and then all of their opponent's Digimon minus an additional 1,000 for each armor form in your trace, which again does not count Magnamon X. But like if you've got like 3 armors in your trash, you can give something minus 4 and then everything minus 7, so or minus 3. So one of theirs gets minus 7 and then the others get minus 3. So it's a really, really cool removal card for maybe decks that are going wide, or even potentially taking out towers if you get enough armors in the trash. And then for the other option cards, of course, playing the 3 copies of Awakening of the Golden Eye. I already kind of talked about this card, but this is your key to get out your Magnamon X off of any of your Digimon or any of your armors, any of your level 4s, rather than just Magnamon himself. If you got Magnamon, okay, cool, you don't need this, but otherwise you're going to need this to Digivolve it. And then heck, even if you want to just evolve your Magnamon into X just to get that protection, that is another thing you can definitely do. And then the security effect is returning a Magnamon name from your trash to your hand, so either of the 2 Magnamons, and then adding it to hand, which is really, really strong. And then, of course, just the other last armor option card is going to be 3 copies of Fire Rocket. I want to fit in 4. This card is just ridiculous, but just space reasons and consistency reasons, I think 3 is like enough. The effect to delete a blocker is also kind of cool. I guess it can pop cross 5s and stuff, and maybe something like I guess that's it, like a Magnamon in the mirror, but like it's that security effect really isn't that relevant. And then lastly, just some blue staples here. 2 copies of Blue Memory Boost for some extra consistency. 2 copies of Hammer Spark just to cheese your opponent and help you clutch out games. And then just lastly, 1 copy of Ice Wall because it is never going away as long as I'm playing a blue deck. But guys, that is going to do it for this list. Not too many real combos and stuff to talk about. The deck's pretty straightforward, and I think it's already been pretty well established, but I did want to kind of mention how strong it is for the set 10 format. But anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this one. If you did enjoy, let me know down in the comments. But thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.